Hey, Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark, and today we're checking out some more relationship stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. But let's crack on with today's first story, which comes from SitSitSit-Throwaway. It is a story we have covered in the past, but now contains a new update as well. So if you do want to skip parts of the story, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. And it's titled, "Am I the Arsehole for Walking Out Over a Chair?" Okay, hear me out. For as long as I remember in my family, almost any time I got up from my seat, someone would take it to either be funny or claim it as if no one was using it. And as a teenager, it literally got to the point I bought my own folding chair so I could pick it up and carry it with me. If I left it where it was, someone would take it, then get mad when I wanted it back. As an example, on a holiday last year, I got up from my chair for a moment to help with something and came back to find a kid in it, and then the family berating me for wanting them to move. But I tell them that when a man owns and brings his own chair, they expect to be able to use it. I own a very nice folding chair that's comfortable and easily portable, and I pretty much bring it to any family event because people are always scrambling for chairs. Well, the other day I went to a birthday party for my nephew, and like always I brought my own chair. But at some point I had to use the bathroom. When I came back, my chair was gone and everyone acted like they didn't know where it was. I said they had 1 minute to return it or I was leaving. They laughed at first but then realized I was serious as I started going for the door. Everybody told me to just calm down and it was just a joke. I said I don't care if they think I'm a stick in the mud. I wouldn't be bringing my own chair all the time if other people weren't always taking my seat when I get up. I don't think it's funny. I never did. My brother-in-law then pulled a chair out of where he had hidden it, and when I got it back, one of the legs was bent. I said it was not like this before, and how could he possibly have done this to a metal chair? He said he could fix it and try to unbend it, but only made it worse. The chair is pretty much unusable now because the leg is warped and I didn't want to risk putting weight on it. I told my brother-in-law he owes me $50 for the chair because that's what I paid for it new 2 years ago. He got mad and kept saying it was just a stupid chair. I said it was my stupid chair and this wouldn't have happened if he wasn't so immature that he and everyone else had to mess with me for years about where I sit. And I took my now messed up chair and walked out. My family has been blowing up my phone saying that it's just a chair and to let it go. But I still want my brother to pay me back for it. Am I the arsehole? Small update. Last night, I sent a mass text out to my family that I will not be going to any family function no matter how important it is until they make this right by promising not to screw with me anymore and repay me for the chair. They've mostly gone quiet now, but I can wait. I've got all the time in the world for them to realize I'm serious. So, some relevant comments. Someone says siblings and Opie says yeah. I'm the youngest sibling in my mid-20s and my eldest sibling is mid-30s. Yet I'm the one who won't act like it's a frat house when partying. My siblings all have spouses and kids too. To be fair, I am in demand. The kids all love me as the fun uncle, and I help keep them busy. And when I'm not there, everyone else has to watch their own kids. Right now, they're probably thinking I'll just forget about the chair and move on, but I'm not coming back for any holiday or birthday party or barbecue until they pay me back for the chair. Someone says the chair is a symptom, not the root of the problem. Opie says I won't deny their chair fixation. However, what I'm really aiming for is making them take accountability. My not being there to help means they may eventually start blaming each other. And with it being my hill to die on, then perhaps they'll finally agree to stop messing with me. Then Opie adds a bit more context, saying it was malicious because even if they had their own better seat, one of my siblings would go out of their way to take mine. They did it just to screw with me because I was the youngest, and they didn't stop. That's why I brought my own chair. Also, the same thing would happen when I was sitting on the floor, if you can believe it. If I was sitting on the floor in front of the TV, someone would take my spot if I got up. I also really never liked sitting on the floor. I find it very uncomfortable. So again, another reason why I would bring my own chair. Apart from one of the kids occasionally sitting on it when I walk away, this was the first time in over a year my family has screwed with me over my chair. And somehow, and I still don't really know how, my brother-in-law bent the leg while hiding it. And it was a sturdy chair too. I mean, he'd have had to have stomped on it or something. And as you can imagine, OP was overwhelmingly voted not the arsehole in the situation. And I can remember myself the first time saying it and even reading it again thinking, what are you getting from this family? What are the positives you're receiving from them? It just sounds like they treat you like absolute shit, apart from the nieces and nephews maybe, but it still sounds like you're being used in some way to entertain them. It sounds like you may enjoy doing it as well, but in the bigger picture of this whole family get-togethers, I just can't see what you're getting out of it. But Opie added a new post around 5 months later and says, I walked out over a chair and my family tore itself apart. And Opie says, I wasn't going to come back here again. To be honest, I'd completely forgotten I'd made this account. I only got back in because I'd written down the password and left it in my desk. I was listening to Reddit videos on YouTube a couple of weeks ago when I suddenly heard my old Am I the Arsehole post, so I thought I'd give an update. Well, things escalated a lot after I made that post because I linked it to my parents and other family members after a little while. They were furious with me at first. Some even mocked me, saying things like, oh, watch what you say or do around OP, he might just post about it on Reddit. But when they actually read the comments on my post when I made them, they became mortified. My brother-in-law did agree to pay for a new chair and gave me the money I asked for. I bought a better folding chair than my last one and resumed going to family functions. But whenever I was there was this air about some of the family members. They looked at me like I'd sucked all the fun out of the room. My parents had stopped thinking the chair thing was funny, and even scolded a kid for taking my seat when I got up to use the bathroom. The only problem is that this kid was my nephew, and he started crying when they made him get up. My brother-in-law came to the boy's rescue, and my nephew ended up blurting out that his daddy told him he could do it. When I was out of the bathroom, there was this big fight about it going on. Several family members, including my sister and brother-in-law, were all yelling that it was just a damn chair, and I shouldn't be so butthurt about it. My parents demanded to know why they were so butthurt about not being allowed to screw with me anymore. Like, what was their motivation after doing it for so long? It made no sense and wasn't funny anymore. And that's when I intervened. I told them none of this crap would have ever happened if they hadn't been so intent on messing with me when there really was no point to it. And I only started bringing my own chair because I could never find a stable place to sit. And if they still thought they were in the right about the situation, then they were just bullies, plain and simple. And what kind of example is that to be setting for their son? My brother-in-law raged, grabbed my new chair and hurled it through the living room bay window. There was a bit of a pause before he realized what he'd just done, and then he took off in his car and left my sister and nephew there. My parents got my sister to call him, and over the phone they threatened to go to the police if he didn't pay for the damages. Brother-in-law yelled a few F-bombs until my sister took the phone back, and she said that he can either make things right or she'd divorce him. Well, that did the trick because he came back looking like a kicked puppy with his head hanging low. He apologized to me and my parents without even looking at us. Said he'd pay for the new bay window and left again. My sister said he drank himself to sleep that night. My new chair was just fine. It took being hurled through a bay window like a champ. There was hardly a scratch on it. My brother hired a window company to come and replace the window, and they had to measure and order a new one before it could be installed, and until then, the window had to be covered with plywood. It took some time, but they got the new bay window, and it's better than the old one, though I imagine it was extra expensive because it's a bay window. The family was still divided about the situation for a while, mainly brother-in-law's parents, my uncle, and a couple of cousins. They blamed me and called me obnoxious over insisting on bringing my new chair and refusing to let anyone else use it. So I compromised. I said that if I had a good designated seat that no one will try to take away, I'll leave my chair in my car. It took 2 more family barbecues before they finally agreed to this. Since then, I've left the chair in my car unless there really wasn't enough seating. That's only happened once since. The problem is though, that even though they stopped screwing with me, they were still screwing with each other until things went too far. They still liked to take each other's seats, but I guess others were following my example because they put their feet down and demanded it to stop. It's been going on for decades and they've had enough. Brother-in-law stayed out of the fight entirely and hasn't caused any more trouble, but for several family functions, a number of people didn't bother to show up. My mother was broken up about it because she loves hosting parties. It took months, but everything more or less normalized again. But without the chair thing going on, some have resorted to other stupid pranks, like a little device you hook to a chair that makes farts. They didn't do this to my seat, but did it to a cousin, and said cousin got really petty at the next party and let out real farts. He said he ate a whole pack of fiber bars and had eggs for breakfast, and it was damn nasty. Other pranks included hiding eating utensils, a stink bomb, hiding some sort of monster thing in the toilet, cellophane in a doorway, ripping paper when somebody bends over, messing with drinks, hiding shoes, copying outfits, a container of foam packing peanuts above a doorway, and finally, the one that really infuriated my aunt and uncle when a party was held at their house, a glitter bomb. They got the carpet professionally cleaned and billed the person who made the glitter bomb for it. So now pranks are just over. They don't want any more. I'm fine with that, but the last few family functions have been a bit dull. I think they were so used to how things were that they're now trying to find other ways to amuse themselves that don't involve cell phones. The chair is a National Public Seating steel folding chair. I bought it online for around $80. It's got a thick foam vinyl covered pad on the seat and it's pretty comfortable. Some relevant comments on that post. Someone says, "It sounds like your brother-in-law could become an abuser." Opie says, "My brother-in-law has anger issues, but my sister has him wrapped around her finger. I'm not exaggerating when I say my sister is out of his league. So he's basically a simp for her. And pretty much does whatever she says. And she's making him go through marriage counselling after they finally managed to get in a little over a month ago. They are, and my sister insisted on marriage counselling. She also forced brother-in-law to cut back on drinking." And OP comes in with their last update, which is a year from the final post. "Somehow, I return again, and with some crazy info on some stuff that went down this past year. I never could have imagined how things could have spiraled into what happened. If you guys thought my brother-in-law throwing my chair through a bay window after his son wasn't allowed to sit on it was crazy, just read about all of this. You're not going to want to believe it. Firstly, my good padded folding chair I'd paid over $80 for was stolen. I have no idea by who, as it didn't happen at a family event, but rather hanging out at a friend's house. Somebody just walked into his yard and took it. I learned my lesson and decided never to buy an expensive folding chair again. Now I just keep a cheap folding chair I got for $3 at a second-hand store in my trunk." Moving on to the other stuff. The family pranks I described in my last post seemingly stopped, but some of them slowly resumed. However, they were only harmless little things that just gave chuckles. The only person that they refused to prank at all was me, due to the events of my previous posts. But that didn't stop entitlement. The 7-year-old son of one of my cousins stole my phone during a family birthday party at my parents' house and intentionally broke it rather than return it. His parents were already going through a rough patch. My cousin, the father, was constantly clashing with his wife over how to parent their child. His now ex-wife was a bad enabler of their son. She's also terrible with money and has a very her way or the highway attitude and does not like to back down when wrong. She was one of the more outspoken people that hated me bringing my own chair and never sharing it. But she never got physical about it. She once confronted me and said that if I was going to bring my own chair, it should be something nice and made of wood that doesn't fold. I told her that I was not going to lug around a dining room chair whenever I go when a folding chair takes up a little space in my trunk. She argued with me about it more and got nowhere. None of the family events were at her house and she does not dictate my life. She gave me death glares for months, but otherwise left me alone. The night her son stole my phone, he'd already been grounded from electronics by his father. The kid took my phone when I set it down on the table to eat some cake and then ran off with it when I wasn't looking. He holed himself up in the master bedroom closet and was trying to install new gaming apps on my phone. That closet had a lock on the door and the key was lost years ago. The brat refused to come out or return the phone. His mother kept telling us all, mainly me, to just leave him alone and let him game on it. But I refused and said my phone was not his toy. The brat was told several times to open the door and he refused. All the while his mother kept contradicting everything said. My cousin got fed up and started forcing the old door open. It's an old manufactured home, and the door was pretty flimsy. Just as he was making headway, we heard a loud banging sounds from inside the closet. The brat had started banging my phone against the nearest hard object he could find. The brat let out some loud screams as his dad pulled him out of the closet. The screen on my phone was nearly destroyed. Thankfully, the rest of it was protected by the case. My cousin's wife tried to blame it on me and said it was my fault her baby broke the phone because I wouldn't let him game on it. Everyone in the room turned on her and she shut up out of cowardice. It cost around $300 to repair my phone, and I had to use a temporary one till mine was fixed. And yes, my cousin paid for the repairs. Well, the rest of the family knew about my cousin's wife's disdain for folding chairs like the one I keep in my car, and they decided to pull a prank on her because of her attitude after the incident with her son stealing my phone. I would like to be clear that I was not involved in this in any way, nor did I really condone doing it. The entire thing was out of my hands. My cousins got together and decided to prank that bee of a wife, and got their hands on a whole bunch of folding chairs. Then they removed every chair and seat in the house and replaced them with folding chairs. Folding chairs at the dining table, folding chairs at the counter, folding chairs in place of the living room furniture, and more were strategically placed around the house. Even the chairs on the porch were replaced with them. When my cousin's wife came home, her reaction went far beyond what anyone thought. Their plan was to just record her having a tantrum and get a laugh, but she ended up going insane on the spot and tried to get a knife from the kitchen to attack her husband with. What the hell? When she couldn't get the knife, she pulled out pepper spray from her purse and used it on everybody. She then attacked her husband with her long fake nails. She probably would have tried to claw his eyes out or something, but thankfully one of the other guys there kicked her off of him. I couldn't freaking believe this shit all happened because of folding chairs. And I feel like the root cause, since I'm the one who was always bringing my own chair to family events because there was never enough seating and people kept taking places I was sitting, and it escalated far beyond me. Police were obviously called, the wife got arrested, all the guys there had to go to the hospital because of the pepper spray in their eyes, and my cousin had to get all the scratches to his face treated. He looked like a bobcat had attacked him. He filed for an immediate order of protection against his wife. They recorded everything, like her trying to get the knife and screaming she'd stab somebody. She had to go stay with her sister after spending some time in jail, and her sister, I hear, is narcissistic as she is. My cousin obviously filed for divorce, and his wife later spent some more time in jail after pleading guilty for the assault. She wasn't allowed near her son for a while, and tried to take it out on my cousin in court during the divorce. That did not go in her favor because he was easily able to prove how unhinged she is. My cousin got primary custody of his son, and his ex got only supervised visitation since she was so mentally unstable. She's pretty much abandoned her son and has shacked up with some fat older man, got a serious tan and bleached her hair. I guess she'd rather live the life of a sugar baby caked up in makeup. My cousin's son has also shown great improvement since being separated from his mother. He was put through counselling and listens to his father more now. The kid has to babysit a lot since my cousin has to work, but at the very least things got better. I still feel like the root cause of all of this because of the chair thing though. Just a bit of added info I didn't think to include before. My cousin's ex-wife had a love for fancy expensive things she couldn't really afford. She filled my cousin's house with imitation Victorian style furniture that she was extremely anal about, which I suppose was one of the reasons she lost her mind so hard when it was replaced with folding chairs. My cousin threw all that furniture out when he divorced her. He said it was all uncomfortable and looked better than it felt. Second edit. My numb self didn't bother to set a password on that phone when I got it, so the kid was able to use it just fine when he took it. I set a password after getting the phone fixed, and the kid was grounded from electronic devices by his father for a month. Then some people were asking questions. Someone says, "Has your brother-in-law got him bedded with his anger?" Opie says yes, he has. My sister has made him get therapy for 6 months. I wasn't given any details on it though since it's confidential, but he had some bad issues. We don't interact much though. Someone says, "You sound like the only freaking adult in the whole family." Opie says, "My parents don't really do any pranking, but are occasionally on the receiving end of one from time to time. Most of the people in the family do pranking seem to be between the ages of 10 and 40. More information on the knife. Opie says she tried to get a knife. They wouldn't let her at them and kept trying to tell her to calm down. That's when they got pepper sprayed. Well, I can't confirm it. I've heard that woman has threatened people with knives before. And finally, someone says, "What the fuck is wrong with this family?" Opie says, "I used to ask myself that many times. After a while, I just got tired of doing it." And you know, I asked myself after the very first post, then why would you want to be around this family? There's clearly a lot of issues going on with this whole pranking stuff and continually, it's not even pranks at this point, is it? It's just absolutely crazy level behavior. And I just have to keep asking myself, in your position, what are you getting out of this? It just sounds like your life would be so much more peaceful if you wasn't a part of this at all. It just all sounds absolutely mad, and it just reminded me of a story. It's not one that I've personally seen, but you know, the crazy area that I grew up in. I haven't got the full story. I will get it for you at some point. We're just talking about like YouTube and, you know, reading people's stories and the crazy stuff that goes on in our lives. And I always ask my brothers, I always say, do you think our lives were normal growing up? And then we reflect on different stories that happened. Like I was talking about the Hoover story that got thrown down at us and stuff. And he was telling me about the story of two brothers who still live in that area, by the way. And they had a particular argument over some borrowed tools. I think it was like a ratchet that's like an expensive make, like Snap-on or something like that. I'm not very clued up on that sort of stuff. And you have to picture the scene with me, but they was having this argument over one had borrowed these tools off the other. And the brother that had the tool was claiming, no, it's his. He paid for it a long time ago, etc., etc. And they're stood between a window, basically, between the kitchen and the front garden. One stood in the front garden, one stood in the kitchen, the door's locked. And they're shouting at each other through the window. And apparently the brother eventually turns around. There's a lot more to this story, but the gist of it was like, you fuck him on this tool. And it just launched it through the window and it absolutely smashed to bits. I know it's not really relevant to this story, but the smashing of the bay window reminded me of it. So I had to get it out there. But anyway, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What would you do if you was like part of this would you be going to these family events anymore? That's what I always ask myself. It's like, after everything that went on, they were still pranking right up to the very end there. So it all escalated with a knife and basically attempted murder almost. Oh dear. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories, your love, your support, your time, not just towards me, but towards one another down in the comments as well. It's absolutely incredible. Never forget the huge difference that you make and, you know, taking the time out of your day, which I really do appreciate. Thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Wake up, get up, stretch my legs, eat some breakfast, milk and eggs, brush my teeth up, wash my face, throw my clothes on, start my day. Wake up, I can smell the smoke from the bacon. Let's go, see the sun shining from the windows. Okay, I know that today'll be a good day. Okay, I know that today'll be a good day.